Quick, can you read this inscription in Sanskrit from the Somnatha temple in the next 3 seconds? You couldn't? No worries, I got you. This inscription was written by the head priest of the Somnatha temple, Bhava Veerabhadra, in 1264. And what it says will blow your mind and make you question everything you've been told about the Somnatha temple. So, just what have we been told? Well, like authors like K.M. Munshi and Prime Minister Narendra Modi like to say, Mahmud of Ghazni destroyed the Somnatha temple, and for the last 1,000 years, the Muslims have been waging war on the Hindus in this holiest of venues. Now, did Mahmud of Ghazni break the Somnatha temple? Undoubtedly, but not because he hated Hindus. Mahmud of Ghazni rose to power at this very critical time in Islamic history. It was when the Fatimid Caliphate in Egypt and the Abbasid Caliphate in Baghdad were fighting for influence over the Islamic world. And Mahmud of Ghazni was creating his own empire in northern Persia, Afghanistan, and the like. So he wanted to curry favor with the Abbasids. So that's one reason. The other reason was his army was made up mainly of Turkish mercenaries. And what do mercenaries like? Money. And Mahmud of Ghazni needed boatloads of money to fund his military operations. And what did the Somnatha temple have? It had boatloads of money. So Mahmud of Ghazni attacks Somnatha for these two reasons and not because he hated the Hindus. The other assertion that we've been told is that he completely destroyed the Somnatha temple, and this too is not true. So how did this narrative of Ghazni completely obliterating the temple take hold? Well, remember how I told you he was really into image building, and Al-Biruni and his court poet Farrukhi Sistani inflated his accomplishments. They said this guy went to the infidels and just completely destroyed their place of worship. But that is actually something that didn't happen. There's a 12th century inscription that says the temple is fine. It's in a bad state, but that's because the temple funds have been mismanaged. And of course, there is that Sanskrit inscription with those mind-blowing words that I'm going to get to. But before that, just let's take a quick minute to examine how did this narrative of Muslims waging war on Hindus in Somnatha take hold. For this, we have our favorite friends to thank, the British. In 1843, Lord Ellenborough, who was the Governor General of India, had just suffered a devastating military defeat in Afghanistan. And he came back and he said, "Ooh, I got to sow divisions between the Hindus and the Muslims." And he issued the proclamation of the gates. And he said, these were the gates of the ancient Somnatha temple, and we are returning it to the Hindus. But this whole thing was a fabrication. In fact, when the sandalwood gates were shipped to Somnatha, there was this other British historian, James Ferguson. He inspected the gates and he said they were fake. So if all of these were lies, what is the truth? And to get to that, we have several inscriptions that have stood the test of time. For example, there are inscriptions from 1470s and the 1490s that describe Somnatha as another Kailasa on earth. There are the chronicles of Marco Polo, who visited India in the 13th century, and he said Somnatha is this incredible place that is characterized by Hindus, Muslims, Arabs living harmoniously with each other, and the atmosphere is one of trade. And there is this magnificent inscription written by Bhava Veerabhadra in 1264. And here's what that inscription says. Somnatha being a port city, there were a lot of traders who came from all around the world to trade with this temple. And in fact, that's why that temple had so much money, because the merchants paid taxes at Somnatha. And there was this Persian ship owner, Nuruddin Firuz. He applied to the temple for permission to build a mosque. And that's what this inscription says. It records the permission given by the temple council to Nuruddin Firuz to build a mosque. In fact, it even donates temple land for the construction of a mosque. There's a document that's transcribed in both Sanskrit and Arabic, and this document is readily available for viewing. And it was witnessed by the town's leading merchants and officials. And the document describes the mosque as a dharmasthana, which means it is a place of worship. So we have these descriptions of Somnatha being a Kailas on earth. We have Marco Polo's diaries, and we have this temple inscription where the head Hindu priest is actually donating temple land for the construction of a mosque. And all these things happen after Mahmud of Ghazni supposedly destroyed all of Somnath. So, what is the true story of Somnatha? It is not a story of Hindus and Muslims fighting all the time for thousands of years. It is a story of Hindus and Muslims living harmoniously with each other, engaging in trade in a culture of religious tolerance. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like videos on stuff like Indian history, mythology, and Buddhism, please consider subscribing for this channel. I hope you have a great week and enjoy the next 7 days that lie ahead. Bye.